Dan Illman, Mike Buer, taking a look at the feature race at Saratoga on Friday. We're going 1.125 miles on the main track. It's for fillies and mares. It's the $135,000 Summer Colony Stakes. Let's take a look at this field. This is a restricted stakes race for fillies and mares that have not won a graded race in 2022, but these horses have won several graded races in their career. And it's a pretty evenly matched group of horses trying to find their way back to the top level races.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to look at it. It's also, I think, going to be really interesting just to see how they bet it, because I thought there were a couple of different options, as far as favoritism goes. I suppose it could be Bonny South, the 7, who's just been sort of playing at or near the top of this division for a couple of years, as has the 3 Envoutante. A lot of different ways to go. Trips, I think, are going to be very important in here, Dan. I think a lot of different horses can win, though.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race. Timeform US has long shot Misty Vell expected to make the lead. That wouldn't be a surprise at all. She has been in front at the pace call in 5 of her last 6 races. Army Wife can be close. Envoutante can be close. I think Exotic West, the 6, is going to try to get close to the pace again. She was on the lead when overmatched in the Shoe V last time.
Yeah, only a 4-horse field last time, where she was just in way too tough. 2 starts back, she was last early in a race that was just dominated on the lead. She's a versatile horse. She could be forward in here. I do think the 2 is probably making the lead, though.
Army Wife is a multiple graded stakes winner. She won the Black Eyed Susan and the Iowa Oaks last year, and she ran a fine 3rd in the Alabama, going 1.25 miles against 2 very tough mares, Malathaat and Clariere, at a distance that might be a little bit far for Army Wife. She was 3rd last time out in the Molly Pitcher. I really didn't see much of an excuse that day. She dropped down inside on the turn, got to the outside late, couldn't get by leader of the band. No match for the very impressive search results.
Yeah, she wasn't going to win that race anyway. She wasn't going to beat search results in there. I still thought it was, not her best performance in there, Dan. Overall, the trip seemed like it was fine. And she just never even really came close to getting second in there. Actually just held off Bonny South for 3rd. I thought it was a pretty disappointing performance, but outside of that, I mean, basically all of her races are good. She's very consistent. She's a tactical horse. She's probably even a little bit underrated. I know you've always been a fan of hers, and I think you're sort of turning out to be right about her. I mean, she's a pretty good horse, and she's not going to be the favorite in here.
Tom Amoss, Maggie Moss claimed the number 2, Misty Vell, for $30,000 in 2021. They're out. They've made a nice sum of money with Misty Vell, gone right through her conditions. They tried her against stakes horses last time out over muddy going. Maybe she didn't like the muddy track. I just have a feeling that this race, even with her perceived pace advantage, according to Timeform US, might be a bit tough.
That's how I looked at it, too. I mean, I realized that she could make the early lead in here and make it pretty easily. I think there's a real chance that happens. I just didn't really see how she was good enough to wire this field, as you've already sort of alluded to in the open. There are some good horses in here. And as well as they've done with her, Dan, she's never run a race that's really going to put too much of a scare into these horses, I don't think. She did run well up here twice last year over wet tracks, but they were against much weaker horses.
The key to this race in many ways is the number 3, Envoutante, a 3-time graded stakes winner, a 2-time winner of the Fall City at Churchill Downs, going 1.125 miles. Some great reporting by Dave Grenning. You're going to want to read the advance on DRF.com. After she finished 4th in the Beholder Mile, she was retired. She was bred to Quality Road. She didn't get in foal. They've decided to bring her back to try to make her a millionaire and maybe get that Grade 1 win down the road. It'll be interesting to see what we get. There's a lot been going on since that last race.
Yeah, none of those things are necessarily good if you're, thinking about betting this horse at a short price. And listen, maybe none of it will matter. She'll come back, run one of her good races, and I think it's pretty clear from looking at her form that one of her good races makes her really tough in here. But she's always been a little bit hard to trust, even when she was in regular racing and in good form, Dan. Sometimes she would run a real good one. Sometimes she would be a little bit dull. There are things to like about her in here. I want to bet somebody else.
The 4 leader of the band finished ahead of 2 of the main protagonists in this race, Bonny South and Army Wife, in this race, when she was 2nd in the Molly Pitcher behind the aforementioned big favorite search results. And she's likely going to be a bigger price than those 2 yet again. Let's watch leader of the band in the Molly Pitcher. She was down towards the inside, and search results are just too good. She just blasted by these horses in the stretch. Leader of the band was very game to hold 2nd. She's an underrated horse, and I liked her win 2 back in the Lady's Secret over sloppy track, where she didn't break very well. It's kind of a thing for her, and then she overcame a wide trip to win.
Yeah, she ran fine in here. She's only second best after a really good trip, just saving ground all the way. The horses that are right behind her there, Army Wife and Bonny South, both come back. They couldn't get to her for second that day. I don't know. She ran fine last time. She didn't do anything in that race that made me want to bet her back in this field, Dan. And boy, she's 4-1 on the morning line. That to me, that's not a very good price.
The number 5 is First to Act, and this Curlin filly is going to be making her first start around 2 turns in the Summer Colony. She is bred to handle it, and she has a ton of upside. Let's watch her last race. This is only a first level allowance at Belmont, going 1 mile and a 16th. She's got some work to do at the 3/16 pole. Not only is she going to run by these horses in front of her, she's going to get away from them late.
Yeah, she gets out into the clear here. She comes with a good finish through the final furlong, and she is going away at the end. I think it's worth pointing out that the horses she's running by here are Wasp and Mashney Girl, and either one of those 2 horses would be 1,000,000 to 1 in this race. A nice performance from her in this race, certainly a step in the right direction. She has done nothing wrong so far in her career. To me, listen, it all comes down to price, Dan. If she was some kind of big price in this race, she's meeting good horses in here, but she's not meeting superstars. And so maybe she could step forward enough to win the race. I would definitely want more than 6-1 on the morning line if I was going to bet her.
That's a fair point. I like the way she goes. I like her upside. I like the fact that she has this route pedigree, but she is going to have to improve because for a restricted stakes race, this race is graded class. The 6 is Exotic West, who won the top flight, going 1 mile and an 8th, 3 starts back. And then in the Allaire DuPont, a race in which she was favored, she was taken well back, which was surprising. It wasn't surprising that Super Quick made the lead on her. It was surprising that Exotic West tried to come from last. And I guess she ran just fine to finish second. And last time out in the Shoe V, she had no shot against those horses. So a little bit of class relief maybe can go a long way.
Yeah, I think maybe it could. And as you've already sort of alluded to, she can get the right trip in this race too, because she's pretty tactical. She could be close to the pace in this race, which could help her. I thought she was a little underrated going into those last 2 races, Dan. And obviously, she was never going to win the DuPont the way that it was run. And I don't think being taken back to last had anything to do with it. The winner of that race was just super impressive and never gave anyone a chance in there. To me, Exotic West did fine to be second best that day. She wasn't going to win the Shoe V last time. This is a better spot for her. I think she's interested, and she's a great price on the line.
While Envoutante is closing in on millionaire status, the number 7 Bonny South is already there. She's a multiple graded stakes winner, a Juddmonte homebred trained by Brad Cox. I'm curious as to your thoughts about whether you feel she's come back as good this year as she was in 2021. She ran a big second in the personal ensign behind Latruska, although she did get a wonderful pace set up that day. And that's really the key for Bonny South. She doesn't have a lot of speed, so you got to hit up front to set up her kick.
Yeah, it's true. I think that's one of the drawbacks about her, even in a race like this one, where obviously she classes up just fine, but she does need a little bit of help if she's going to run her best race. And we'll just see if she gets it. As far as your question about whether she's come back as good at 5 as she was at 4, I don't know. I think the jury's maybe still out. The more I look at that Molly picture, I just don't think she had any chance to win that race, trying to come from last to run down search results. And I don't think she was, ever going to win the Phipps either, even though there was a fast pace in front of her. She's not as good as Clairiere. She's not as good as Malathot. She's not as good as search results. She finished 4th. I don't know. I'm a fan of this horse. I still think she can run a little bit. I think she fits really, really well in here. And I feel like that there's maybe just enough cheap speed in here, Dan, to set up her run.
Let's take a look at our top selections for Friday's Summer Colony Stakes. You're going with Bonny South. And again, if you believe the pitcher, she was just completely taken out of her game, running, trying to rally from last in that situation against a really good horse in search results. And if you think the Phipps was too tough, you go back to the Double Dog Dare off the layoff where she gave Malathot a little bit of a scare in the stretch. So Bonny South's your top selection, Pratt and Cox.
Yeah, I'm just going to take her, hope she gets some kind of a setup and just runs one of her good races. I mean, overall, and I know she doesn't win a lot, Dan. She's very consistent. She always shows up.
Army Wife's also pretty consistent. Her buyers might not be at a level of Bonny South. Bonny South seems to run consistently faster races, but Army Wife was able to fend off Bonny South for 3rd last time out in the Monte picture, and I think gets the jump once again on Bonny South turning for home. 7365 for Mike. I'm hoping for Army Wife from the Summer Colony, the feature at the Spa on Friday. Best of luck.